martial arts, karate. I bust you down like Itachi, cause you legit Hachi. Straight kamikaze, I'm talking dead bodies as I go straight brawly. Y'all niggas could hardly be me, I'm not part of the sea. I'm part on the sea like Moses. No psychosis, I hope to focus. I put in potent, sustain focus. Ignore all the BS on my timeline, I throw a lifeline for those thinking I ain't about mine. Hit you upside your head with a tie iron. Can't be your time if it's my time. They said to be patient, I'm patiently waiting. It's driving me crazy, cause lately the odds that I'm facing is basic and basically tragically hating. Anticipating my fall, they want it all for themselves. So I made the call, no need to stall. I go and get them all off of the shelf. I take affirmative action, I'm blasting and laughing of how you're reacting to my satisfaction of cashing injections and Benjis and Wilsons, the life that you always imagined. Brother from the goal, yeah. If you ever see him go, it's Holocaust or Holy Ghost. Overcome or overflow, yeah. Either way it's overdose. Watch you walk or comatose, penetrating to your soul, yeah. Tit for tat and toe for toe, pound for pound and blow for blow. You would never see me fold, nah. Claiming that what you don't know, that is how you get exposed. Left it there with bullet holes.
Promise to leave it alone, promises all day.
All right, guys, what's going on? I'm not so sure if my connection's all right. My Wi-Fi's been acting up, but here we are, late night session, midnight madness, as I called it, night owl hoots for all those up right now at this wee hours of the night. Just here to talk about a few things that I wanted to talk about earlier, but there was a lot of buzz going on in the entertainment side of things, but good news, bad news for some. But overall, I enjoyed it. So I had to go and support my boy Sil and his channel with Mikey Sutton and them going live and pretty much just celebrating, I guess, things that they've gotten right, and then even dropping more scoop bombs, as I like to call it. So I was there, and then I saw my boy Skywalker went live. So I was like, you know what, let me go support his channel too, right quick. Jump in, see what's going on over there, and had a lot of fun, man. It's always good to just jump at these guys' channels, see what they're talking about, and even engage with the chat. But nonetheless, like I said, I definitely wanted to pretty much go live myself. Oops, sorry there. And talk about some things that I just wanted to talk about, unrelated to what was discussed or seen today, but we'll talk about that too, because I do find it, interesting nonetheless. But what I wanted to talk about personally today was just where we're at right now with shows like House of the Dragon, Ring of Power, and even Andor, which I just caught up with that. And then we're gonna discuss some of the things that popped up today, like more stuff with Black Adam, whatever, maybe Deadpool stuff, like that was interesting. We'll talk about that, and whatever, we'll see where the conversation leads. But first and foremost, we are definitely gonna start with House of the Dragon versus Ring of Power. I feel like I'm about to have a super hot take right now. But I like to say is bear with me. And let's hold on, give me a second, guys, because for some reason I'm having a hard time hearing myself on this headset, and I'm wondering if it's because the volume's low. But anyways, I'm not so sure if my audio's on because of it, but I think it is. But okay. So I want to start off with House of the Dragon and Ring of Power. House of the Dragon, I think, is like six episodes in. Ring of Power is about like 5. And I'm here to say that earlier in the beginning of the seasons of both both of these two. I was leaning more towards like House of the Dragon being the better show. Um, and more so because I felt like Ring of Power had a slow start, but I did say I don't want to judge it just yet because we were only a few episodes in, and let's see where the story is going. My complaint about both shows is that I feel that there is a rush in the pacing of the story that they're telling. Um, Hold on, I need to make two out there. I feel there's a rush in the story. Um, Let me see if that helps. I'm sorry. I'm really trying to make sure I can hear myself on these headset, but I do not hear myself. Okay. So, um, yeah, whole point is the pacing I feel is really it's driving me crazy. But at least at first with Ring of Power and House of the Dragon, I felt they were both kind of doing this like rush thing, sort of kind of. Ring of Power more so in the beginning episode, I felt like they tried to imitate the whole we're gonna do a quick lapse of a story of war and this and that, and then we're gonna just start at a certain point after the war, like the original trilogy did. But like I said before, I feel the only difference is who it starts you off with has nothing to do with the war or the powers or Sauron and whatever. Again, these are for all my Lord of the Rings fans. If y'all actually watched the movies and enjoyed them or even read the books, I guess. But yeah, I said it feels like they chose to continue the story with a character that is directly connected to the beginning of the story, and you just you see her as a little girl, and somehow she's a grown woman already, and it's like there's no context in between. Um, they just try and summarize some things about her brother, and that they're supposed to explain why she is who she is. It's like so very bland in like of a backstory to give her, like a very bland one. It's um it's almost yeah, it's very bland. I think it we needed more to like really like invest ourselves with her character. Um so that was my issue then. It's just that rush in the beginning of the show, of the first episode. Since then, you know, the story is I feel coming to a decent pace. Um then you got like uh pretty much just I feel personally for me, and like I said, this is why I say it's going to be a hot take. I feel like Ring of Power is actually coming at a better. The story is being told at a better pace, considering how many characters it involves. As I started like comparing the two, real between House of the Dragon and Ring of Power, I'm like Ring of Power is trying to tackle a lot more characters than House of the Dragon is. And even with all that being said, House of the Dragon is like really doing this fast-paced storytelling exactly like they did in the last season of Game of Thrones, which is what I was afraid of when I was already noticing that they were doing that like within like the third episode, or just every episode there's like these time jumps. This last one was for sure like, how do you say, the nail in the coffin, I guess you could say. And I'm not saying the show's bad, or like it's a completely like a waste of time to watch. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if you were looking for a decent pacing story, a well story told show like Game of Thrones, like the first 7 seasons or maybe six, you can argue, this isn't it. This is more like the last season of Game of Thrones type of storytelling. Um, and if you can't acknowledge that, I think you're willfully willingly choosing to ignore that fact that this is really another season 8 of Game of Thrones type of storytelling, and I am not digging it. I'm not here for it. Um, it's poor character development. Um, it's 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 um it's almost like they just put the show together knowing they were gonna pull possible Game of Thrones fans from the first, from that show, those who have read the books, and said that should be enough to generate the plays we're looking for. And it's cheap writing. And then I'll tell you this much: I've never read the books, um, of which I believe this season is based off of, and I want to say it's Fire and Ice or something like that. I might be wrong, or something like that. But I know it's based off of one of the books. But if or a book, one of the series, I guess, of the books, whatever it is, if that's how the story is in the books, then I will say the books suck. That's horrible storytelling. Like, to have these time gaps that just jump forward in time, and now the characters are somewhere else in life, and you have no clue as to how they got there. You have to kind of just assume why they are where they are, based off of what you know previously. And yeah, so if I'm going to be honest, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be a hot take, I feel House of the Dragon has gotten to a place where I feel now it is doing poor storytelling compared to Ring of Power, which is actually tackling even more characters to try and tell their stories that they're trying to tell from these different characters, different races within that Lord of the Rings mythology, whatever mythos. Some of them I'm not. I'll be honest. I almost feel they're like brand new things that they created. But what do I know? Hey sis, what's going on? I see you. Um, so yeah, I'm like, I'm not digging it. I'll be honest. I'm just not digging it. House of the Dragon, and I feel now Ring of Power, I feel, is doing a lot better as far as the storytelling is concerned. It's not the most compelling stories. I can say that. Like, it's not too crazy. I've said it before. Like, I feel like I'm kind of watching a video game, like Dragon Age or something. The stories are on that kind of level, I guess you could say. Nothing too crazy, but it's still at a better pace. Where you're actually seeing even the one character that I mentioned that starts in the beginning, that you see her, even with her, like, I didn't. It's hard to like invest in her because you're giving this weak background story to her, but every other character for that matter, and that the show's built around, and the peoples and all that, whatever, they're still at a decent pace where you can follow. You're not lost, and either it's entertaining enough for you, or it's not. For me, it's entertaining enough. It's and if I'm gonna be honest, I feel like it's somewhat getting to a point of mirroring, I guess you could say, Lord of the Rings um, mythos, so to speak, between at least the fight between good and evil. I mean, I will say that I feel like that's probably the cheapest part about the show, is that it's not exploring really anything new, as far as like, or at least not so much as far as like adventure, or I feel like they could have done that better, maybe. You know, instead of like, I'll say this. This is why I felt it was fast paced, and why they didn't take advantage of the fact that they have a show on their hands and not a movie. And that's that. I feel like if you're gonna work with all these characters, different characters that you're bringing into the fold, you should have taken your time to like build a story, and it doesn't have to right away. You don't have to bring it right away into the um, how do you say, the plot of the story. You can let that build up, I feel like, and I feel like that's what they like to do. Like, it was right away, like, oh, this war, Sauron, he's here again, and this is what we're here for. And now we have also these like sub stories happening around. You know, that I feel is cheap. Like you didn't have to do all that. Take these characters, take the time to build them up. Some nice adventure like stuff going on. You know, that would lead to the moment of the whole Sauron threat, rather than you're kind of getting it out the gate. And that's why I feel like that show also did this thing of like rushing to tell a story. But at least after that, it's like it's moments. It's the story is given in moments that are not so far apart from each other. Where on House of the Dragon, it's like every episode you're jumping into another point of time, and in this last episode 6, it's like you're really like into the future, and it's leaving a more of a bad taste in my mouth personally. Um, Now, by no means I'm not telling you to watch it or not watch it. What I am saying is uh, that's my take on it. And whether you agree with it or not, let me know. Comment on that. Um, but and let me know how you feel about that. But personally, for me, yeah, I'm like, like it's House of the Dragon as it moves forward is leaving more of a bad taste in my mouth, while Ring of Power is slowly but surely um, kind of like drawing me in more, or at least it has me um, content so far. I guess if that's what I'm looking for. I'm not thinking it's the greatest thing. I will say visually, I feel like it has a lot to offer visually, um, for sure. I will say that. But there's some things that too that I'm like, even like on the choreography side of things, it's like pretty whack. Um, but like I said, as far as the storytelling is concerned and the pacing, definitely better Ring of Power than House of the Dragon. But I will always say I recommend you watch both. Make your own opinion if you haven't watched these shows, and go check them out. If you have watched them, again, if you disagree or if you agree, let me know in the comments what you think. Um, but now, eh, this brings me to my next one, which I mentioned earlier, I think, and that's Andor. Um, and I put versus Obi-Wan because these are the two latest shows that came out revolving around Star Wars. Um, I will say, Andor, when you're first watching it, doesn't feel like a Star Wars, like it's connected to the Star Wars universe. Not right away, at least. Um, and oddly enough, I was okay with that. Um, my knowledge of Star Wars lore is anything ranging from movies to TV shows. I know nothing about the comics or the novels. So I say that so that I can to gain mercies if I'm killing something here with what I'm about to say. But my knowledge of this is only as far as like um, it's only goes as far as pretty much the movies and the TV shows, both animated and live action. Um, so again, Andor at first doesn't feel like I'm watching Star Wars, which something about that was actually kind of refreshing in the essence of like I didn't mind this new different version of a Star Wars story being told. It felt very at first Blade Runner ish. If you're a fan of Blade Runner, you'll and if you've watched the show, you know what I'm talking. I'm sure you can agree with me due to like the scores. I will say cinematography wise, cinematically, forgive me, the trains are right next to me, so that's what you're hearing right now. If you're picking up that sound, I can't even no because my headphones for some reason aren't working. Let me see something here. But yeah, so I feel like hello, hello. Okay, that's not changing anything. Um, yeah, the definitely I feel like the score and the cinematography are really good in this show. And the pacing, I love the pacing of this show compared to Obi-Wan's pacing, in which I also feel you're rushing to tell this story. Like I don't, and that's the part that's getting to me about a lot of these shows these days. I feel like you guys are like, they're rushing these stories, like, which is mind-boggling because these are TV shows. I can understand a movie that has to work within a time frame, right? If you're especially if you're trying to do the whole like nothing more than 2 hours type thing, 2 hours and a half max, and that's a lot to try and fit in to tell a really good story. That's a within that time lapse, that time lapse. But we're talking about a series. You're putting together a whole season of a show. Why are you limiting yourself to like 6 episodes, 8 episodes, and uh, 30 to 40 minutes each episode type thing? To tell a story. And then because you're only doing a certain amount of episodes, you're rushing this stuff. Like everything's just rush, 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 and the story plots are weak because of that. You know. But anyways, that's my thing with Andor and versus Obi-Wan. Um, Obi-Wan, I felt that story was rushed. With this new show Andor, I'm loving the pacing of the show. Everything is literally like in like a chronological moment for moment. Nothing's happening fast. It's very well easy to follow. But even the storytelling, the cinematography, it's more artistic in what they're like, you know, than it is entertaining. It's very very like subtle scene sequences that are very art driven, more art driven than it is uh, entertainment wise. It really is a good cinematography for a show. And so major props to the producers and the directors of this show. Um, and that says a lot for me personally because like Star Wars is also one of those IPs that I feel are kind of like falling between the cracks. So it's kind of good to finally see good Star Wars content again. Um, which, like I said, which strangely enough, at first you don't get that vibe. And honestly, uh, again, because I don't know anything about the comics or the novels of the lore of Star Wars, if someone could also like correct me on, or at least not correct me, but verify for me if the whole, I'm gonna assume if you've watched the show, the maybe the Empire can't be everywhere at once, and that's why these other troops exist in this show. Let me know um, in the comments because I don't know. Um, but yeah, so but nonetheless, the way they use these troops to tell their story also makes sense. I get the use of them, and nothing about this show is unheard. Like it's not reason. Like everything's reasonable. It makes sense. Great storytelling. You're I definitely feel like you're gravitated to invest into the characters that are in this show. I One thing that I do like that the show's doing that I do like when any show does this, or even movies for that matter. Some people don't like it. I personally do like this because it kind of does fill in gaps, and it's a great way to uh, give you an understanding to why the character makes the choices he makes, or even you see, or he or she, why they make the choices they make, or how they keep making the same choices they make, and like, or like how things are full circle. And that's that. There's that always like that. I like when it goes like present time, right? But then there's like the next scene that goes like back in time to give you like a little bit of the backstory uh, in glimpses to as you keep progressing in the story, which is something that again I can appreciate, especially if what you're trying to do is not waste so much time in one sequence to give a whole backstory. Let's just say that's the thing, that like I said, especially something like earlier when I'm talking about Ring of Power, like if that's what you didn't want to do, the least you could have done was set up scene sequences of the past to give us background stories in glimpses at the very least. If you're not willing to dedicate a whole maybe a whole episode or a whole couple minutes to it, then give us a few seconds, a minute, whatever, of in glimpses of this person's background to have us understand who they are and why they do what they do, you know. But because of that, I will say in the show Andor, I especially the last episode, I love the shot by shot sequences as it started giving you more of present past, and you're realizing like, man, like like it's just artsy and but like also like mind uh thought provoking. There you go, thought provoking, especially when it comes to like when you are in moments of life, when you get somewhere where it's a playback to something you went through before and you recall it mentally. It's like almost like a not a deja vu moment. What's that word I'm looking for? But it's almost like you know you're as a grown person, you're doing something, you're witnessing something, and all of a sudden your past as a child comes to mind and the connection. And so it's just really dope how they did that. I so all that to say that this show Andor I'm so far enjoying, um, versus something like Obi-Wan that had potential, but they failed to focus on Obi-Wan, um, and then rush to tell the story of all these different characters in the show of Obi-Wan, and yeah, so that was my issue with Obi-Wan. And this is probably gonna be a hot take, but a lot of people were excited about the Obi-Wan Vader fight. Um, for them to face off again. And I'm only saying this because I'm gonna assume by now, if you haven't watched the show, I'm gonna assume it got leaked to you. If it didn't, my apologies. I should have said, what's the word I'm looking for? Warning to talking about spoiler alert. There you go. So yeah, that's the whole Obi-Wan Vader fight. There were some things that were dope about it. Don't get me wrong, but it might, and this is what I told even one of my guys was like, if it doesn't outdo the Revenge of the Sith battle, then it fails. And it did some things that you can argue and say, oh, but this you didn't see in the Revenge of the Sith. Um, and that's that, Revenge of the Sith, it's pure lightsaber battle, pure lightsaber dueling with some things of the Force, not major use of the Force. While in this one, you can see that whether they were just playing their age and their maturity and their growth in the Force, which I think is what they were aiming for, then yes, they succeeded in that, right? Like you see Vader using a lot more things in the Force, which is kind of accurate when you think about what you see Vader do, like in like the sequel trilogy or the original trilogy, and maybe even like Rogue One or something. Um, or even his appearances in like the animated series. He's just a lot. He's very strong in the Force, and if I'm correct, even I've seen some channels that kind of discuss some of the things he's done in the comics and in the novels or in the lore, or whatever. And he is very like Vader becomes definitely more reliant on the Force, um, the dark side of the Force, at least, whatever, or the Force in general, right? Um, but nonetheless, I don't know if it outdid the Revenge. It's not for me personally. Maybe it's like, not that it's bad. Again, the battle between Vader and Obi-Wan isn't the worst thing ever in the Obi-Wan show, but it wasn't as grander. And then I guess for me, what it is like you could have ended it there, or if that wasn't going to be how it ends, how you choose to follow up that scene, I think, is what makes it even worse. You know, and just corny and just like that. There's a lot of issues with this show. Again, you got all these characters they tried to focus on, other than Obi-Wan and at the very least maybe Darth Vader. And I think that's what spoils the story. Or like just or if you were gonna do all that, you should have at least taken your time to tell that kind of story, which I probably would have appreciated more if they were trying to tell this story of Leia and this other Inquisitor and all this other extra stuff, which also at the same time has you question certain plot holes that make no sense into later things that happen in the story. But whatever, neither here nor there, I guess. But yeah, Andor for sure. If you're looking for a good Star Wars show to watch, or maybe you've given up because you think as me and say Obi-Wan, you had high hopes and they let you down. Andor, I feel, will give you hope, and not a hope, not like it's like, oh, it's Star Wars on the rise, but like if you are a fan of Star Wars and you're looking for something good to watch, I believe Andor is that show, just as well as like The Mandalorian. Right now, if I had to, it's the Mandalorian and Andor right now are like right here with me, and that's that Andor's only 3 episodes in, and me personally, I can only speak for myself. I'm enjoying it. I'm kind of appreciating it. I like the pacing of this story. At least those first 3 episodes. I can't say if it's going to keep going in that fashion. I really hope it does. I hope there's no rush. I hope they commit to just telling a really well thought out story here with Andor, and yeah, that's again very much something to look forward to. Um, so those are like that kind of like the 3 shows I'm like really watching right now. Um, Again, I'm not telling you like again House of the Dragon or Ring of Power is bad. Watch them. There's some good things about those shows too. I know I'm knocking them. I was knocking especially House of the Dragon for that pacing stuff. But there's still some good stuff to gain. The one thing House of the Dragon for sure is nailing is the common thread of power, greed, manipulation, agendas, the power struggle of politics and things of that nature. It's still doing a good job of presenting that and um, things of that nature. I just again, I wish the pacing was better. Ring of Power. I wish they would have taken more time to tell the stories of all these characters they're introducing. Um, but at least the pacing is not as rushed as House of the Dragon. Um, I didn't need it to go immediate into this known threat that's coming, but low key, the last episode has me curious. Maybe this isn't the bad guy we think it is, and maybe this is all like minor stories before the big hoorah against Sauron. There's a lot of things that I'm still kind of curious on. It's called Ring of Power, and I guess what I was wondering or kind of like the one thing I'm kind of thrown off by is I probably should go back and watch the original trilogy, or maybe even go back to reading the books. Last time I read them was when I was a kid in school. And actually, I think I only read The Fellowship of the Ring, and that was for like some sort of reading class that I had. I'm not even sure I even finished it, to be honest. I didn't finish it. I think I read like halfway through, and just then I said I'm going to watch the movie to see the rest and figure out what I'm going to write on this reading report, whatever. And I think I did like all the Lord of the Rings books, to be honest. But as far as the story's or the movie's concerned, I want to say I could have sworn there's this thing about the kingdom of men and elves and dwarves and all the different races, at least the ones that have power, iron power, whatever, that they all created rings. So I don't know if it's going there. I thought this was what the show's doing, and it kind of looks like it might be. But again, someone comment in the comments, let me know, because I'm kind of lost on that fact. And then if I'm correct, Sauron creates his one ring to rule them all, whatever. So like I guess that's the part that kind of has me confused. I'm not, like I'm waiting for that to come up, but considering the title, so like I'm assuming we're gonna get there. I would hope that that's the story they're telling rather than just somehow just the one ring of power and the other rings are irrelevant, or I don't know. But again, things that I feel like either maybe again maybe I need more time to see where they're going with this, and it all turns out, oh, okay, this is all sub stories before the main story, or whatever. Um, which is, in that case, if that is what it is, then maybe I'm judging too rushed. But anyways, and then again, Andor, great show, pacing so far so really good. The score is really good. The cinematography is really good. Very subtle things that are just different. A very great show. Um, um, so yeah. Um, Now moving on. Um, One thing that I came across today that I was like, yo, this is pretty dope. Which was interesting. Is Are they trolling us or is this real? You know, and luckily I caught my boy Sill's channel, so I'm going to go with it's real. And dope. I personally feel is more dope than this, right? Like, you can ask yourself, why didn't they promote this in D23, right? And as for those who don't know, it's that I would encourage you go either on YouTube, or if you follow Ryan Reynolds or Hugh Jackman on any of their social media platform, I'm sure they have their little trailer there, or like not even a trailer, it's like a teaser video of Ryan Reynolds talking about the movie Deadpool, the third one that they're putting together, and pretty much at the end it reveals that Hugh Jackman for whatever reason is in Ryan Reynolds' house, and he asks him if he wants to play as Wolverine again, and he says, "Yeah, sure, whatever you want," or something like that. Pretty much in letting us know, like, yeah, I'm gonna play as Wolverine in the next Deadpool movie. Which I don't know about you, but I'm hyped for it. The internet was hyped for it. I think, when everybody thinks Wolverine, it's Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine to everybody. That's the equivalent of Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man. You know, uh, you can't imagine any other Iron Man, because of how many movies he's done. You know, um, as Iron Man, right? It's so it's yeah. I think everybody's excited for this. I am excited for it. I ever since they were playing with this idea, right? Because this isn't new. Ryan Reynolds always played with this idea, trolling online, or in videos and things like that. This feud with Hugh Jackman, just even Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, but because there's this like weird fourth wall breaking of knowing we play these characters that in the comics are rivals but buddies, but then rivals and then buddies that can work together but be against each other. It's this weird thing, and then they both have this kind of like distaste of how Deadpool was used in the Wolverine Origins and whatever. So it's to see this, I was like, yo, like Hugh Jackman is really coming back as Wolverine just for Deadpool. I'm a happy camper. And honestly, I'll be honest, like I don't care how they do it. Like in essence, like it could be that this is just a multiverse version, right? Like this is a Wolverine from whatever universe Deadpool's in, right? Because we never really saw Deadpool in the X-Men universe. You know what I mean? Like, or like at best we got Colossus and some other, but like they wasn't the same Colossus from the first like X-Men trilogy. You know what I mean? So you can say Deadpool might be just in his own universe, right? And then the Cable character, and like he didn't really use characters that we know for sure from the Deadpool or from the X-Men universe. At least not that I can think of or remember. And even if, but now let's say they are, right? Let's just say he is in that universe of the like Fox X-Men universe, right? That existed. And let's say this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't care if this is a multiverse version because technically we maybe in a sense saw Wolverine die, right? In Logan, or did we not see him die? Like I'm convinced he's died. I'm convinced he died. Like I'm cool with that. Like I'm cool if he's dead, somehow, and he finally that was the way to end that chapter of the. And I wish they would have. I honestly wish they would have not came out with the Dark Phoenix movie, especially if they weren't going to do it completely right. Not to say that there wasn't cool. Here's the thing. Probably another hot take. Dark Phoenix isn't the worst movie. It had some really cool potential and cool things happening. Um, but to its downfall, it's like you didn't have to keep going after Logan. Like Logan was a good way to wrap up the X-Men, Fox X-Men storyline, right? Like all the mutants are dead. Even though, like, yeah, we didn't see it happen. It probably would have been cooler to see it happen, but like that's a lot to show. That it says that in the movie, Charles like nearly wiped out all the X-Men or all the mutants, whatever. So and only a few survived. That says a lot, and but nonetheless, like that was one. I like so for me personally, my boy, my boy Skywalker, he said he didn't like the movie. I think he's failing to grasp. I may be wrong. I think he failed to grasp what that movie meant. Right? It was the end. It was at least what it was supposed to be before the Dark Phoenix came out, and that's that. It was the final chapter to the Fox X-Men like saga. Let's call it that. Not trilogy, saga, right? Because there was many Fox X-Men movies. It was an end to that saga. That's what that was supposed to be. And the death of Charles Xavier and Wolverine cemented that idea that universe, that chapter, or not even chapter, but that saga is now closed. And we're like, so that's what made that movie what it was. You were not supposed to see Charles Xavier at his best, or Wolverine for that matter. Like, the fact that he got duped the way he did, it's just a telling of like they said they're past their time. Their story's coming to an end. Yeah, I didn't like how Charles died, but like I told him in his video, his live. But it's I think we all agree, like, man, it's a one petty one. That's a petty way to die, but it's at the same time it made sense. You know what I mean? Like, um, but nonetheless, like it doesn't even matter really. What matters the most of the Logan movie is that these two guys were old. They're dying. Nothing lasts forever, and not every story really has to have a happy ending. Which, not to say that this is the only movie that's done that. That's why I like movies like Man of Steel, BVS. That's actually why those DC movies kind of call out to me more, because the happy ending it's never so happy. There's always like that lost with a little bit of gain, or a little bit of loss with much to gain that is offered, right? The Superman having to kill someone to save humanity. There's a loss and a gain, which you can argue the gain was more than the loss, whatever. But like it's the sacrifice, right? There's always that thing, right? Like, but like the idea that nothing can last forever, some things have to happen, whatever. But like the BVS thing really is what Batman versus Superman is one I feel pushed that thread even more, right? Like, but or even how Zach did it with Watchmen. He does the same thing, right? I mean, that's the comics, right? So like, these are things that happen in the comics. It's not like far fetched, but like, these are things you don't usually see in movies, because you know either these companies want these IPs to last forever, um, or God forbid, children saw this, and it's like there's a lot of the reasons to why it's like a taboo, so to speak. But certain directors are willing to tread that line of no something. The reality is life does end, and even superheroes have to die, and that's what I think what makes Logan, movies like Batman versus Superman, where Superman has to die, things of that nature. That's what makes these movies what they are, and it like um, how do you say trend breaking. They didn't follow the trend. You know, they weren't following what everybody else does. They said, no, we're gonna tell this story this way. It's something's have to die. But that's what I think makes Logan Logan. It's the fact that it was supposed to be the end of a chapter or the end of that saga. People die. That's how things mostly end. Children are the future. There was a message there. All right. Um, but all that to say, right? I kind of went on a side rant there. All that to say that I'm convinced Logan is dead, right? That Wolverine is dead. So I'm okay if this Wolverine, if Hugh Jackman being in the Deadpool movie universe now, if he's from another multiverse, that would make sense. But if for whatever reason it turns out that this is actually the same Logan, old man Logan, he actually was alive this whole time, that also can pass for me personally, because how many times throughout every movie, like trilogy or not trilogy, movie with Wolverine, does it look like he's dead, but because he's younger, he heals quicker? It could be that in this moment, it was like, oh, he's dead. We saw him die, quote unquote, right? Like, oh, he's dead. He's not moving. But what if we're just not used to, well, let's move along, right? But he's actually still healing there. You know what I mean? He could still be healing, you know, kind of like a Superman moment, it could be one of those, like he's dead, but maybe he's not. He can technically come back to life, right? This is Wolverine we're talking about. And we know very well much know that in the movie is that his healing thing was slow, and the idea was it was too slow for him to actually survive this time. But what if, it could be that he's actually was still alive. I'm just saying they could go that route if they wanted to, and I'd be okay with it personally. But like, I'm definitely okay. Like if it's just a different Wolverine, and I think that's probably the more proper way to go to keep that Fox X-Men universe, I guess, closed. And that is what it is, right? Like we already know the possibility of Charles Xavier existing, even though they wasted that in the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. We're not going to get into that now, but definitely a waste of a cameo. But hey, nonetheless, they proved their point, is that these characters that we've seen in different movies, in different universes that also have died, like Charles, apparently exist in other or other universes, right? So I think that's what they're going to probably more than likely go with in this. Wolverine is going to be from another universe, whether it's that same universe we saw Charles and that the Illuminati group of the Avengers, you know. Um, but nonetheless, I'll be cool with that. Um, Yo, homie, my brother Lord Koja in the building. Appreciate you stopping by. He says I agree. And actually, see if there's a way to boom. I agree. Is Deadpool 3 maybe before Logan? That's what I'm hoping, because Wolverine died in Logan. Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, let's see what else he said. There can be any way they bring him back if it's after Logan. I'm hyped if this is Deadpool's universe Wolverine. Right. Yes. I'm hyped if I'm okay with that. I think that's probably more than likely the route they're gonna go. Um, and yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that's the one that makes most sense. You're you know, where we're dealing with the Wolverine that's in that universe. The one we know is already dead. You know, it just like most multiverse theories. You have your doppelgangers everywhere in every other universe, whatever. Either you are the same, slightly the same, whatever, blasey blasey. But 9 times out of 10, physically you look the same. So if that's the route they go, I'm content with that. I'm definitely more than content with that. But again, I wouldn't be mad. I honestly wouldn't be mad. Or maybe it's like you said, maybe it's something that happens before Logan, which can be the case. It can definitely be the case. But if it's not, I'm also okay with that too. Um, so that's that. I definitely I'm definitely okay with that if that's the case. Um, and I think it was cool that this was revealed through a little teaser video that Ryan Reynolds put together rather than at D23. I think it makes for more suspense. It made, definitely was a surprise and a curveball nobody was expecting to see. So I think they nailed that right, man. You know, and I'm excited for it. I am excited for that because I've said this before, and I'm still afraid. My concern in all this is that this is MCU property, and this is Deadpool, and we already see how they're afraid. Disney is afraid to pass the threshold they need to pass with certain characters that are rated R characters or you know very rated R characters. You know what I mean? That they towed the line with how they can do the rated R thing. Um, it's like they haven't fully embraced it, and that's my concern. Where at least when X-Men belonged to Fox, even though they weren't always doing the whole rated R thing, but when it came to Logan and he requested it, they gave him the okay. And then when it came to Deadpool, it's like, yeah, he has to be, right? And this is what I'm afraid of, that when it comes to Disney now, um, they're gonna fail to deliver on that end. I think they did it to compete with Cavill back as Superman. Yes, which you know what? Perfect segue into the next topic I was gonna kind of touch on. What else are you saying, though? I'm concerned Disney is too safe to handle rated R characters. No, that's a fact. We're already witnessing that with characters like Moon Knight. Um, what else? There's or how they did the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. You can tell they're still scared to do what they should do or be able to do with characters that are rated R or movies that should be rated R, and they're not willing to fully uh, go there. And that's my concern when it comes to. Although I will say, as far as the language is concerned, it seems like when if anybody watched Thor: Love and Thunder, they were willing. They did some things there that was like surprising, or even I think even Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. But I want to say Thor for sure. There was like some swear words here and there, if I'm correct. If not, though, regardless, point proven is that even in that movie, someone like Gore the God Butcher, they only went so far with what they could have done with that character, and that was a shame. But whatever. But to this question here that was brought up is that, or statement I should say, is my next thing that I want to talk about is we got Superman versus Black Adam. And which even on the other note, as far as like Deadpool versus Wolverine, I even put that. Who knows? Maybe they're gonna team up together. Maybe they're gonna face each other. Maybe they're gonna do both, which they've done plenty of times. But yes, this is my next topic, and that's Black Adam versus Superman. Not that we're getting that in Black Adam movie. Don't want people mistaking that. But it's already confirmed that he's making a cameo on this movie, and I think people are hyped now for Black Adam for that reason. And with every right, they have every right to be so. I think for those who are fans of the Henry Cavill Superman, I think this is what we wanted. We wanted him to exist in this universe, or just can we keep using him as Superman? Let's start using, reusing these characters that Zack Snyder brought into your cinematic universe, and keep using them, because whether you see it or not, they are the majority popularized characters that people want to see. Whether it's Henry Cavill Superman, whether it's Ben Affleck Batman, Gal Gadot Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa Aquaman, Ray Fisher Cyborg, unfortunately, Ezra Miller, the Flash. And I say unfortunately, fortunately, because I mean, I've never been, I'll be honest, look, Henry Cavill, oh, here we go, yeah. Henry Cavill as Superman kinda is its own fan base too. 100%. 100%. 100%. And look, and I know that to be a fact, right? Because the reality is there's some people who are either just fans of Zack Snyder's work, and all they want is Zack Snyder's work, and or what he had to offer as far as like his story arc to be finished, and that's all they're concerned for. While there's also those who are not just fans of Zack Snyder's work, but of his casting choices and just what he can do with whatever he's given. Um, I feel like I'm there in between, right? Like I obviously do want to see him finish the story arc, but I am also a fan of how he chose his casting and how well they played their characters and how much I want to continue to see these characters, whether it's in solo films, whether it's in cameos and or team ups in other films, whether it's you know or whether it's the continuation of the Justice League. I want to see it all, man. I want to see it all. Want to. I don't want to be confined to just one thing. I want it all. If I can have it all, give it to me all. Like that's how I want it. Because I do like these characters for what they are, like how they were presented, and just the depiction of them by these actors. I feel you don't want to lose out on that. They Ben Affleck is Batman. There is no better Batman in my opinion than the Ben Affleck Batman. Uh, Henry Cavill Superman is today's Superman. Gal Gadot Wonder Woman. I think we all know that that is Wonder Woman for everyone now. Jason Momoa's Aquaman, same thing. Uh, right now, we're just failing to get more Ray Fisher Cyborg. If we did that, like and that's that he already has his own fan base with that. You know what I mean? Um, and then there's Ezra Miller Flash, as I was saying. Um, yes, let's get it all. I mean, we know what's going on. I mean, for those who know, again, I know I'm well aware not everybody knows everything that's happening behind the scenes with these, whether it's directors, the companies, whatever. But for those who know, the Ezra Miller's scandals, I know has maybe people on the fence with the Flash, but for me personally, in my opinion, and this is probably going to be a hot take, how one does their job is one thing, and who they are outside their job is another thing, right? I feel like people get the two misconstrued because I mean, well, I think people don't look at acting or directing or doing movies, I guess, or maybe doing art. Maybe people just don't, as a whole, don't view it as a job, you know, and can't understand that there can be a separation of the two. As a person who's, well, I don't want to give away my age, but I've been working for a very long time. I want to say good 12 plus years, maybe. And in all those years that I've worked so far, and it's still got many more to go, I'm very well aware that how people are outside of work doesn't always conflict with who they are at work. Now, sometimes, yes, if they're an asshole outside of work, they'll be an asshole at work too. I know that could be a thing. But even that doesn't necessarily also fully, like sometimes that doesn't equate, or not that it doesn't equate. Sometimes that doesn't have anything to add to how efficient they are at at what their task is at work. Whether it's whatever their job may be. Whether I don't know, work in a warehouse and you're picking orders, driving a forklift. Maybe you drive trucks. Maybe you mow lawns. Maybe you work on cars. How efficient and how well your skills are in these different things you do doesn't necessarily have anything to do, like how well you can do that doesn't connect with whoever you are outside of life. Sometimes it does, right? Like different jobs, like maybe customer service, right? So if you don't have a good personality, you're not going to be good, at that job, right? And sometimes you could see that show. Um, exactly. They are strangers to us, really, right? So all that to say that, like, yeah, I think the unfortunates of what actors have to deal with is that if everyone was treated like that, right? Like in the aspect of like, oh, cameras on everybody, which we kind of do almost, but like in the essence of like, you know, TMZ, if there was like that kind of guy, following you everywhere you go, there'd be scandals on everybody, like, oh, I don't know, you know, uh, whatever. You get my point. You know what I mean? Daniel over at Starbucks, caught, at a Julasco with a lady friend who isn't his girlfriend. Who knows? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's that's the equivalence of these, things, or uh Amy who works I don't know, at the library, caught smoking a blunt, or a joint in a car, like, you know what I mean? Like, what they it doesn't necessarily sometimes, that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, so in that essence, it's like that's how I feel. Or man, sometimes it is like, you know, Joey, low key, did you know he was, he's right now in court going through a divorce, like with his wife, like, and if that, like, that's a scandal, what I'm saying, that could in itself could be a scandal, and but because we're not in the limelight as regular human beings, like it's not a thing, but, but like now you have these actors and they have whatever's going out outside of their like lives being constantly recorded, and you know uh yo, Marco, what's going on, brother? Man, appreciate you, man. Thank you for stopping by, brother. But yeah, so like, so personally, all that to say that what I'm trying to get at is I'm not so much the type that is bothered by um what is like said or what is done by these actors or directors outside of their work environment. I'm not so sure why people virtue signal that type of stuff so much or so hell bent on it. I'm personally not the type. Sure, yeah, it's funny, and it's I guess on a personal level, it's good to know. So that I guess if I were to ever run to them into the street outside of their work, I know how to operate. Maybe that's one thing to appreciate about these things coming out, you know. But do I feel like that has anything to do with their money or like what they do to make money as far as like their careers and their jobs? No, not really. I not really, because in the end of the day, even though I know people like to say like, oh, well, that's what they signed up for, like, but who dictated that? Like, who gets to dictate that? In the end of the day, this is what they do for a living. Do you just get a high or something good about yourself, feeling that you know what I'm saying? Like, there's things to really consider there, and I say that even for like people who just are can appear to apparently be like, I don't know, assholes, and or just making poor choices in life, whether it's Ezra Miller the Flash, and here's one that's going to be a hot take, or whether it's this girl who plays Mira. Now her name eludes me now, but in the end of the day, I'm not so sure what they do for a living should matter, or how they can do their job acting should matter to like, or what happens outside of that is what I'm saying should matter with what they do behind the camera, like how they do their job once they're at their job, and their job apparently is acting and playing these characters. I'm not so sure it coincides. Like, I wasn't, and all that to say that even when it happened to Johnny Depp, I wasn't happy about that. Like, whatever's going on between him and his wife or his ex-wife or his girlfriend outside of his job shouldn't have anything to do with him being able to do his job. And frankly, in my opinion, I feel like you shouldn't get mad at these like actors or actresses. Like the ones you should be getting mad at are like these paparazzis and stuff. Like, get a life, man. Like, these are the like you're ruining the movie experience for everyone. Because like now people these people can lose their movie gigs, these roles, all due to because now you're putting out this bad publicity out there about these people. And that if they were just normal Joe Schmoes, it'd just be a normal Joe Schmo thing. Because at nighttime, like it is, like I know coworkers. I've had coworkers, plenty of coworkers that were in court over, the most serious things, and luckily it didn't cost them their jobs. Thank God it didn't cost them their jobs. Thank God their employers understood, like, hey, whatever you're going through personally, um, has nothing to do with how well you work for us. So, just take care of that. Let us know when you need to take off for your court dates, and let's keep it moving. Give me a second here. Asthma's kicking up for whatever reason. But but yeah, like, so. Anyways, that's just how I feel about that. Um, Man, I kind of went on a side tangent there. Um, Black Adam versus Superman, though. Let's get back to that. This is, I think, something to look forward to. I know some people are thinking like, oh, Black Adam has to face Shazam. Look, here's the thing. I think we got to get out of the mold of expecting things to be directly comic book accurate. It doesn't always have to be. It's cool if it's a different take, a different direction with some inspiration of comic book movies. I'm fine with that. Um, that was real good philosophy and wise outlook. Yeah, man. It's that's just the way I see things, man. I'm very big on don't expect others. Whatever you want for yourself, at least you should want that for others. And personally, in my life, I know I wouldn't want whatever I'm personally going through in my life to affect my working condition. So I just wouldn't want that on anybody else, no matter even if it's a easier job, so to speak, that doesn't, I guess, require as much labor. Which I don't want to say that either. Like, who am I to say that? Or at the very least, something that pays more. Like, oh, so what? Oh, good for them. They're in a career that apparently pays more. Which, I mean, that I don't think that has anything to do with them. That has everything that thing to do with us. Why are we willing to accept that entertainment people and athletes that entertain for a living, why are they getting paid more money than people that do things that are essential for a living? That should bring us into question. But then again, like, there's a lot of politics behind that. Like, not even politics, but the reality is that generates more money, so that's why they make more money. Somehow, some way. Um, uh, but again, that does fall on the consumers. You know, But I guess what should we pay more for? Entertainment, or I guess our necessities in life. You know what I mean? A lot of things to things put in perspective. But anyways, back to Black Adam versus Superman. I'm excited for it, man. Um, you know, if this is how we're gonna acknowledge that Superman or Henry Cavill is still Superman, I'm okay with it. At least until we get more Henry Cavill Superman as Superman in his own films, and until we get Zach to come back to finish Justice League 2 and 3, let's take these W's where we can, and yes, yeah, let's keep pushing for Justice League 2 and 3, 100%. Make no mistake, like the Snyderverse isn't restored until that happens, for sure. That's a fact, but it doesn't mean that that's all we need and all we want. You know, uh, you know, that's probably the most priority for sure. Maybe, right? I would say that I could say that. Like, I think yes, Justice League 2 and 3, for Zack to finish that story arc is important to, I think, to a lot of us, 100%. But like, does that mean we shun away the appearance of Henry Cavill as Superman in the Black Adam? No, no, I don't think so. Let's see what it's like. Let's see how this happens. Let's see how it goes. And for all we know, this might be a great movie. With the at least the knowing of um, these characters existing in the same universe, which is great. For me, it's personally, for me, what I feel like is like, this is just more characters for Zack Snyder to play with. If if and when, if and or more so when they give him the green light to do Justice League 2 and 3. You know, that's how I see this. they're more this expansive universe that they're all trying to connect together. I'm not saying you have to like every single film. That's not what I'm saying. You can dislike all these films if you want, or not watch them at all. Me personally, I'm gonna watch Black Adam. I can be honest about that. But that's because I've been excited for Black Adam and The Rock as Black Adam even before the release of the Snyder Cut. Personally, in my opinion, I was excited for that movie since when they announced it. Um, I was excited for a lot of things that wasn't necessarily Zack Snyder directed or unsure if it was connected together. I wanted it all to be connected together before, and this is before I even became aware of, I guess, everything. I'm talking about when I was ignorant to everything that I know now, right? A part of me, thought, oh, Shazam, I still wanted that to connect it to the Zack Snyder universe. Um, and when I say that, obviously, I mean the DCU. I wanted it to be some sort of connected thread, where it's got the primary, I guess you could say, tree of life, so to speak, which is Zach's storyline, and then with branches that branch out with all these different movies, but it all connects to the same tree. Like that's how I envisioned it. My mind. I'm like, like that. Hence why we had David Ayer give us the Suicide Squad, but with Batman showing up. Um, Wonder Woman told by Patty Jenkins, but that character for sure was first introduced by Zack Snyder. Same thing with Aquaman and James Wan. Like I have no issue with all these other directors doing their own thing with these characters. Um, and even if that means that the aesthetics of the film and the cinematography and all that, even if it's different, I'm cool with that. I like diversity when it comes to art specifically. Um, hence why I like different genres of music. I'm not just, as much as I'm a rapper, I can definitely listen to rock. I like playing drums, playing the guitar. I like country music. I like diversity. Not everything has to be the same. Um, and I'm fine with that. So that's just my take on that. So like I don't mind all these characters if the idea is to connect them to Zack Snyder's universe, whether these films were under certain people or certain people are going to get credited for these films, like Shazam and Black Adam, whatever. Um, in the end of the day, like as long as the acknowledgement is that Zack Snyder's universe is the primary universe, it's the Earth One universe, so to speak, then I'm here for that. And um, like I said, that to me just means more uh, DC characters for Zach to play with once they greenlight him the permission to do Justice League 2 and 3, or once his I guess schedule opens up too. Because let's be honest, that man's busy. He's doing Rebel Moon right now, and I don't know if you guys been catching his little things that he's putting out there, but it looks like it's gonna be dope, man. Anyways, let's see what my boy's saying here. Zach finishing his story arc must happen. Yes, more DC films will happen. Pretty simple. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, man. I love Snyderverse and still roll with Aquaman. Can still enjoy Nolan's films and others. Connecting to Zack's universe is what should always have been. Right, exactly. 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 100 knowledge Zack's Earth One. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like for me, it's like, look, Zack's for Man of Steel, that's the inception of Earth One, right? And uh everything else connects to it. That's all I care for. Even if it's being told with different directors and different styles, aesthetics, and cinematography and all that, like I'm fine with all that. As long as the core of those stories are coming from Zack Snyder's vision, and if it could still be told. And here's the thing: I think that we also have to acknowledge is that there is no such thing as like Zack's original vision being told. Although I do have a theory there, right? And Rebel Moon is going to be 100%. It is, but here's my theory. Or not even theory. Like it's a theory more so. Like what I'm trying to get at is like this can happen, right? And it's this. We know Zach has done movies that have more than one cut. Sucker Punch is an example of that. Watchmen, right? Like there's the director's cut. But even I think the Sucker Punch has like 3 different cuts, if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong, Coach A, but I feel like that's what it is, right? So what I'm trying to get at is this. I think Zach will definitely has a new vision, right? Because why give us something old that we already know is going to come, and there's like this lack of surprise, right? Um, which we already know he's kind of like pivoted with Zack Snyder's Justice League. He did a slight pivot, and I can only imagine that Justice League 2 and 3 is gonna show us where that pivot is going in a different direction than he originally intended, right? All to give us something new that we're unaware of that's gonna, jaw drop us. But we know Zach is a beast. We know he's willing to exhaust all the time he's given to shoot. Exactly. Right. So where I'm going with this, where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is that if Zach really wants to be a G about it, which he clearly has been, he's willing to do things that he has to do to how do you say, keep his pure cuts still intact, right? And that's he'll shoot multiple things at once. And I'm not talking about like what other people are saying, like, oh, well, he can shoot Moon and shoot this and shoot that all at the same time. Even though yes, he can do that. But what I'm trying to say is what he can also do if he wanted to, if he's finally given the time, is he can shoot the new vision of Justice League 2 and 3 and then still have like a original cut uh you know of 2 and 3 where we actually get both, you know what I mean? And where like they'll release it and DVD and make even more money because they know that there's a audience that still wants to see his original vision come to pass. Like what they still want to see that on screen. Like granted, it is different still to see it on screen how he envisioned it visually compared to how we saw it written. For sure. You know, um, so I think that's still something within his capability if he really wants to be a G about it. Which why not? Like I think we can get the new cut, the new direction cut, so to speak, and then the original cut, the old cut. Who knows? The Old Testament to the New Testament. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's a possibility, and like that's something that came to mind the other day when I was thinking about it. Right, like man, like low key, this Zach's a beast, man. Like, and that's what came to my mind is that Sucker Punch technically had 3 different cuts. And like, what if he does something like similar with this? What if he does something like where it's like there's the new vision and that's gonna be a bomb story, but then just because he can and he's gonna take advantage that he's finally got his cast back and then all these other whatever things he's able to do, and he still shoots the original vision. Like, what if that's the thing he does? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, and Zach, if you ever watched this, I'm just saying you might want to consider that. Apparently there's a few of us, which honestly I said this before. I honestly would still watch if it was him saying that he's gonna just release whatever he had planned. I would watch that. I still want to see how that would be visually. You know, how Ben and all these actors can act it out, and everything. Like there's I vote. I would definitely still see it. But again, if it's give me both, like, and then or if it's just honestly, even if it's just a new one, his new vision and the new story, like I'm with it too, man. I'm here for all that, man. You know, but yeah, all I'm saying is like, don't be surprised if he shoots both at the same time. You know, where it's like the new vision, but then there's like the original cut scenes. Like maybe in something like that. Very possible. When it comes to Zach, he's the he's the king of cuts. He's the king of cuts out here, man. Um, I mean, there's the whole phenomenon of the Snyder cut exists because of him. So all that to say, Black Adam, you know, whether it connected to the Snyderverse or not, I was always interested in seeing it because I mean, one, Black Adam to me as a character is dope. Hawkman, like I don't know, like if you're a fan of DC, you're gonna want to see these characters, Doctor Fate, like the other two are not the other two, or even Atom Smasher. Like I remember seeing him in Justice League the animated series. I wouldn't put him on the same tier as Black Adam or Doctor Fate. I'm not, or Hawkman for that matter, but still interesting, cool character to see. Cyclone, it's whatever's with her, but the more three more important characters, now four more important characters that I'm more intrigued to see in this film was definitely Black Adam, Doctor Fate, Hawkman, and now Superman. If that's what I'm getting in this Black Adam film, I'm there for it. And with personally for me, it's like old regime is out, David Zaslav's in, Warner Brothers Discovery, you know, and so far from the move, yeah, exactly the master cut. That's it. That's what's coming. But for me personally, like I feel like what we're what we've seen with like what we've witnessed happening for those who don't know behind the scenes, whatever, as far as like the old regime out, Toby Emmerich, Walter Hamada's out the door pretty soon. Or like it's already set in stone. It's not like we're uncertain. No, it's set. He's out. Antonov, Jason, what I'm saying? The other person's still there, but I don't even know to what extent. I think Jeff Johns, whatever. But he's not going anywhere. He's done good comics for DC. Um, but all that to say that they're out the door. We've heard what David Zaslav has planned. We're seeing moves being made. Batman and Aquaman, Superman and Black Adam, Batman and the Flash. Possibly Superman also. Like or Wonder Woman, I think, is in the Flash. So there's things happening that clearly should give notice that like we should be excited. I think for uh, uh, what's going to come in the DCEU. Hawkman and Doctor Fate definitely great to get. I like their castings and look 100%, 100%. There's anybody who says otherwise, you're crazy. You're just crazy. But I love you no matter what. But you're crazy. If you don't like what how they look and the casting for them, I think great casting, great how they look, dope. And then just if you know the characters and why wouldn't you want to see them in live action? It's just that baffles me. Um, and again, none of this means that you should stop fighting for or wanting JL2 and 3. No, I mean, and hey, look, I think it's coming. I think it's coming, even though they're not going to announce it. I don't think they should announce it. Like let's see everything kind of slowly but surely come out. Let's not jump the gun. You can't reveal your cards all in one. What people don't understand that's still happening at the end of the day is that there is still a battle here, like a friendly one, I guess, friendly competition, between Disney and Warner Brothers, or with Warner Brothers Discovery now, DC Comics against Marvel Comics, cinematically. They're in competition with one another, whether even if you're a fan of both, what you have to understand, these two properties are it's like McDonald's to Burger King or In and Out to Shake Shack. It is a thing, man. They're both good, but some people lean one way more than the other, and so it's always a constant battle of what move can we make to gain more eyes this way, and the more you reveal, the more the other person knows what they got to do now to, say. So you have to keep hide your deck, hide your, your hand, so to speak. That you don't let them see you bluffing. You know what I mean? So this is a game of chess. you know every move matters. So like, is it really a smart move for Warner Brothers Discovery or David Zaslav or whoever's in charge to say like, yeah, we're bringing Zach back, even though like there's a lot kind of insinuating that he's coming back? You know what I'm saying? They haven't said it, I know that, but if they said it, like, you think that's really a good idea? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I don't think so. I think I can see why it's more smart to just be like, okay, Henry Cavill's back. Ben Affleck's coming back as Batman in these movies. Wonder Woman's we're gonna use her in this. You know what I'm saying? Like, that makes more sense. Oh, you know what? Let's give let's acknowledge Zach in a Teen Titans Go episode that was dope as hell, funny as hell, and acknowledge just how of a grade A actor or director he is. You know what I mean? Acknowledge his works. Um, and yeah, it was just dope. Like, there's no way you see that and think to yourself, "Oh, that's it. That's all they. That's all they intended." Just there's no way. There is no way. Like, think about it. Like, if the idea is they want us to shut up, right? Which I can say for sure was the idea when it came to the release of the Snyder Cut. Like, let's just release the Snyder Cut. It was a smart business move, and maybe they'll get off our backs if we do it, and we'll get all these views into HBO Max. And it was a smart move, regardless. So that was a smart move. What they didn't anticipate is that not only were the people that wanted this were going to want more, but just I think the general audience now wants more. And I think that's what they didn't anticipate. We're gonna see Darkseid here talking about Ready the Armada. We're gonna use the old ways, and you think people weren't gonna want to see what that leads to? Like, no, no, people want more. You know, so that's that. I if the idea was to let's avoid, like, we have no plans, you would not say, hey Zach, would you want to come back? Or even let's just say it's the people who are in charge of the show running of these Teen Titans Go, and it was their idea. They still have to get it greenlit. I don't think they have the full creative control to do whatever they want. They have to go report to someone, they have to greenlight this idea, and then after that, okay, yeah, go get Zach. These things have to be talked about and contracted. I don't see this being where it stops for them utilizing Zach. I think they have every intention of using him. Are they going to say that flat out right away? I don't think so. Are they going to, first and foremost, it's like, why give, like, I think that's the issue with the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, is that they're always talking about what they're doing in way, way in advance. And that's supposed to mean something, you know? And then I think even now they realize that's stupid, because the reality is their movies aren't pulling the same numbers. Their shows are flopping for the most part. You know, um, people aren't with what they're doing now. Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness didn't meet its expectations. Thor: Love and Thunder didn't meet the expectations. You got shows like She-Hulk and Miss Marvel or something like that, whatever, that are not doing as great as they thought it would. Um, so and here they are. They keep throwing these. Oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing that, way ahead of time, and who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like, that we have to wait like 2 years for whatever you're trying to talk about what you're doing. The Secret Wars or whatever. We have to wait such a long time. Like, who cares about that? And I think DC recognizes that. I think they were saying, we're done talking about what's coming 2 years down the road or 3 years down the road. Like, let's just, whatever we can talk about, we'll talk about and show. But for the most part, let's not make that a priority. Let's keep let's keep our hand close to our chest and what we got in our hands. The deck that we have in our hands. And I think that's I think what the mindset is. It's better that way. It's better to keep your opponent guessing on what you're going to do to determine how they're going to respond back, compared to just completely, because they have done this, is what I'm saying. They have done this where they try and promote everything they're doing, right? And then 9 times out of 10, they do it first. I'm talking about DC with the Warner Brothers, and then Disney comes back and says, tit for tat. Because they have more of a catalog, they can do that. They can pretend like, oh, this is all we got planned. Then DC shows whatever they got planned, and then it turns out, oh, well, we also actually have all this planned. You know, so as far as DC is concerned, with now WBD, I think it's like, let's stop saying we're gonna do this and this and this and this and this. Let's promote what we got coming up right around the corner, more realistic of what's already shot, right? Like the Flash technically is near done, or if not done already. Aquaman already being worked on, and they already got all that going. Black Adam's coming out. Let's just stay focused on what we got going for sure, before we keep talking about what's coming in a far along future. And I think that's the smarter move. I think, again, we're seeing these casts coming back, and Zach and Teen Time. I think that in itself is them trying to let the fans know, like, we have plans. You guys just gotta, like, just be patient. I think that's the overall thing. Is like, just be patient here, and things are gonna come your way the way you want them to. Um, so I think that's what it is. In my opinion, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. So um, that's personally what I think. Again, if you guys think I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, let me know. Let me know what your thoughts and your theories are. Maybe you actually do like what's going on in Marvel right now. Uh, Maybe and I'll be honest, the only thing I'm really looking forward to come Marvel is more so just Wolverine and Deadpool. That's the biggest thing I've heard coming out of there that I'm actually excited to see. If I'm gonna be honest with you, Thor: Love and Thunder was like the last straw for me. That was like the last thing I was giving them a chance to like show me that they were gonna treat that property right, which they didn't. So I haven't watched She-Hulk. I'll be honest, I am not encouraged to. I haven't watched Miss Marvel. Not encouraged to. But I probably eventually will, because I can only give a true analysis of my own analysis of these things, of these shows, and by watching it myself. So eventually I know I will, um but overall, like I said, Thor: Love and Thunder left me with a bad taste. Let's see. I believe big decisions were made and are being finalized. It's just going to unfold piece by piece until we get it till Comic-Con for a crazy big announcement. No, yes. Yeah, I figured you were trying to say big. But I agree. I agree. Again, it's piece by piece. You can't let's do it one by one, little by little. Let's take our time in letting y'all know what we got coming for you guys. Um, and at the same time, like, you know, here's a pretty bad example. When I say bad, I mean probably in the essence of like who I'm going to use an example. But let's just say, for instance, you know, again, Marvel has this thing of planning so far ahead, and Mikey on Sales Live today told us what they had intended for the following Black Panther movie, where it was going to have Storm and Chadwick Boseman, as Black Panther, and they were going to be a thing, which would have been so dope, you know. Um, but then some tragedy where, like, what happened to Chadwick happens. You know what I mean? So, like, again, I think that's the issue, and there's things like that you have to consider when you're planning so far ahead what you got going before you even actually finish these projects or get to actually even shooting them. Um, and I think even that's probably how they feel about the Flash, right? With Ezra Miller, is like, well, one, they kept putting it off. One, they were promoting it, but then kept putting it off, and then promoting it, but still putting it. That was just a shit show of a thing they did with that movie, but lack for better words. Um, so I think they're just tired of doing business like that. So they're just trying to do things little by little, piece by piece, what they know for sure they got going, and have for us. And at the same time, with the bigger guns that they have, let's keep that on hold, because there's a lot of things that still have to, like, well, let's wait for Zach to finish up what he's doing over at Netflix. Let's wait for his schedule to open up more, where when we finally finalize him being able to come back and pay him what he's got to get paid to finish these movies, then we'll promote it. Then we'll promote it. But until then, why talk about that? That's your plans, when that's all it is. It's just a plan, but nothing that's set in stone, or better yet, pen to paper on contract. Why are you going to promote these things? It doesn't, and that's not a bad thing that it's not finalized. It's just, you can't just go there just yet, or maybe it did. And again, I'm not saying that it isn't. Maybe it is already finalized, but again, it's just something that we're not going to discuss yet until that ball is actually rolling. If it is something that's already uh, written down in contract and all that, then or maybe they're just in talking phase. Who knows? But these are things that, even if it was set in stone and written on paper, why would you promote that right now. Like that's so far down the line. Let's focus on what we got going on now. Everything else would be a distraction, and you know, and then what? Like the only reason they'd be doing it, and maybe this is a good point, is well, let's just say that let's just finally say reveal that we are going to do that, for the sake of these fans that are just solely loyal to Zach and what he has going, and that's the only way they actually participate in whatever else we got going on. And now we'll let Disney know what we got going on, and now they're going to plan something and probably find a way to steal and sabotage his work again. Who knows, man? But I don't know. I think personally, in my opinion, it's smarter to go little by little. Don't go for far too ahead, and or too far ahead. And let's see where it takes us. But again, with the moves they made, I think it's evident enough that they clearly do have intentions, at the very least, of finding a way to bring Zach back, and more importantly, making this whole universe connect. What hater love Marvel, hater love Marvel. There's something about that formula that is a success. I don't feel that they got it all right when it comes to what they've done with all their films as a whole. Some movies I can say are good out of the Marvel universe. I wouldn't say that they're the greatest cinematic movies out there. The whole MCU. I mean, I would never say that, but there are some good movies in their store in that category, along with this thing that they've created of a cinematic soap opera, so to speak, that apparently both comic book moviegoer and general audience moviegoer that it just is there to watch a movie now, that apparently has offered them a sense of connective tissue, whether it's the weakest connective tissue in my opinion to some of the just decent connective tissues that at the very least do connect the films, and tell overall bigger story. It works regardless, and money wise. Does that mean DC has to do everything? No, I would prefer DC still does their own thing, in essence of own what DC truly is, from paper to screen, and don't be afraid to do, allowing these directors to do what they want to do creatively, and put the money behind these especially the big characters. Put the money behind these big characters, and allow these directors to do what they have to do, especially and then just let the Snyderverse be the core universe that connects to all these other movies being told that connect to his universe, and it's just all one universe with all these different characters that all these directors are telling their stories with them, but then Zach can utilize these characters in his own way, with his own story, the main story plot that's being told, that draws them all together in that same fashion that MCU does it, but again, not having to stick to the lighthearted kitty, nobody bleeds, nobody dies, really kind of scenarios, and everything's a joke, ha ha ha, and then whatever, we're gonna push all this stuff that whatever. It's just whatever the MCU is doing now. It's getting weird. But yeah, I think that's what David Zaslav sees. There is a success to this idea of having a connective universe cinematically that at the very least does work, and brings in an audience, but you can do it by still staying true to the DC brand. One, first and foremost, because that's I think what we have to also realize is this is a DC brand, not a Zack Snyder brand. This is a DC brand. What I will say is I feel Zack Snyder has utilized the DC brand best when it comes to how to utilize the DC brand. he just knows how to properly use and tell DC brand stories, whatever, more than we've seen other directors. But not to say that these other directors have fallen short from it, because the Dark Knight trilogy was great. You know, David Ayer's Suicide Squad. I really, that's one thing also that I hope we get, that we're being told, it is a thing that they plan on releasing, and I really hope we get it soon. Um, but hope one is that there are other directors that know how to utilize the DC brand. In my opinion, you know, uh, a lot of these movies, these are I've always had hot takes, and that's that I am of the type that believe Aquaman was a good movie. I do wish that it was able to connect more continuity wise with Zack Snyder's Justice League. That would have been dope. But nonetheless, I do like what they do with Aquaman as far as like the um, Atlantean technology, how the cities looked underwater. It for me personally, it felt like a sci-fi but underwater. So I thought that was dope. But I like to say that and now what I'm gonna get with that is that I've never really been a fan of Aquaman like that, so I won't know. I don't know the actual connectivity. All I can base it off of is the animated TV shows I used to see, um, and uh, in a sense, and then just like the little bit of comics that I came across, where he appears. All I can say is that I feel like what James Wan did with Aquaman, at the end of the day, was still a new thing to see cinematically that I personally do appreciate. Um, and then uh, even David Sandberg's Shazam, I I wouldn't say it's the greatest movie. It's still a child's movie, but that is Shazam for you. It's Billy Batson. He's a kid, really. The only, I think I'm more of the type that I do prefer like the Shazam that becomes wiser once he's Shazam, you know, rather than somehow still like a kid. But at the same time, that is the newer version of Shazam. Like, and even in the animated movie series, like, or even when he makes appearances on Young Justice, right? Like, he's still a kid essentially. So it's like he's a kid in a grown man's body, right? So there is something cool about that character too, that I feel like does appeal to a younger audience. Hence why I think Shazam still works in its own way. But I don't mind him existing in the Zack Snyder universe, where Zack can eventually do what he intends to do with that character. And what I mean by that is, like, if you think there's no way to use that character in a more mature and maybe a darker way, like, and when I say dark, I mean like just maybe the story does go in a dark way, right? Like a where I'm leading to this, um, uh, Justice League War Apocalypse, or Apocalypse War, whatever, the where we see Shazam fighting with the League against, whatever, and he's like doing his best to stay alive, and he kind of like sacrifices himself. You know what I mean? Like, that's still a thing that can happen, and you can't say that it can't, because I think it was those moments where I think even like in the MCU, it worked with Spider-Man when he has his moment of like dying, and it kind of got, well, not die, but the whole everybody gets wished out of existence, whatever. That was still like, oh man, this is a character who's still a kid, and he's like, dies, kind of idea, but doesn't really die, whatever. You know what I'm saying, though. So I just I like to say that I still feel these are characters that, if they're used in a different way with all these other directors, it doesn't stop Zach from being able to do what he wants to do with these characters. Um, my bad. Hold on, let me see what my boy's saying. Yeah, no, Wolverine Deadpool got me hyped. 100. Zach uses DC the best, in my opinion. He balances real life consequences with the comic book fantasy the best, to where one doesn't hinder the other. Exactly my point. Yes, exactly my point. That definitely does that the best. Um, yes. I'm saying it's a good movie. I like it. I like it. I do wish it had the connective tissue to Zack Snyder's Justice League for sure. I wish the air bubbles thing was a thing, and how they sound when they are trying to talk to each other through water, to how they talk, whatever. Like I wish that was all a thing for sure. Um, what Zack and MCU did well was make their lame, boring characters exciting and entertaining. Aquaman and yes, 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 yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Perfect comparison. Prefer wiser Shazam. The newer one, they like him being kid mind. Right, exactly. Yeah, I do prefer yeah, the older one. Like there's a difference. Like even in the how they're drawn out and how they look in the cartoon, they're different. And I prefer the wise one because it makes more sense, right? Because if he has the wisdom of Solomon, you would think he'd start acting wiser, not still kid-like. But it's almost like this newer version is like he has to tap into that power to use the wisdom of Solomon type thing. It's different, but I get why it works. I do get why it works. But I do prefer the wiser one. Like to me, that just always made more sense. You got the wisdom of Solomon. Once he's Shazam, you think he'd just be that, you know. We could very much see a dramatic and triumphant Shazam stepping up in Zack's. Exactly my point. That's what I'm envisioning in my mind. Like maybe, yeah, maybe he is still this kid maturing in from the first one to this new Fury of the Gods. But by the time he hits the Snyderverse or Zack's story, so to speak, not the Snyder, 'cause he is. I've always said it. He's in the Snyderverse. The dude's got an Aquaman shirt in the first one. He's got a batarang. He's got a bullet that That's they mention the characters that we know for sure. And even his new trailer, Future Fury of the Gods, they got the Zack Snyder's Justice League shots, where he's talking about these guys. So he's clearly in this universe, right? But if your concern is like, oh, but those movies and the way his characters ran, it doesn't match Zack's, whatever. That's yeah, because that's his own story. He's still where he's at now. But like that doesn't stop him from being this more mature, dramatic, triumphant, as he's saying, Shazam, once he steps into Zack's story in the way that Zack wants to utilize him, you know? LOL, right? Solomon snoozing on Zachary Levi. Karma for the Snyder Cut comment. Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah, I always feel like, man, you should have never done that, but that's on him. Again, for me, that's one of those, um, yeah, silly that he would say that. Does that mean he's a bad actor or no? Doesn't. I've actually seen him play other gigs where I feel like I always thought he was a good actor, and I liked him like in the show Heroes. I think it was Heroes Reborn or Heroes. When they brought it back, he was in that series, and I seen him in other movies too. He was just in a movie where he was Kurt Warner, the quarterback, and he was actually really good in that movie. Um, but yeah, all that to say that him as Shazam, it's fine, and hopefully just again by the time he's in the story, Zack's story, let's see. I like the story slash version where Billy's adult form was actually his father he lost rather than older version of him. Ooh, okay, okay. I gotta look into that one. I'm not up to par in knowledge of that one, to be honest. Um, Zachary Levi was great in Chipmunks. Chipmunks fan can't lie. 100%, dude. 100%. Chipmunks is where it's at, man. Yeah, I mean, look, again, yeah, the comment he made about the Snyder Cut back in the day was obviously ignorant. Um, is it life or death? Does it make or break how he plays Shazam? And not really, not for me personally. Again, I'm not the type to take personal whatever they do outside of how they act or do their job efficiently, as far as like the acting part is concerned. Granted, one can make the point like, oh yeah, but that part is part of the job, right? Like, uh, PR relationship, whatever, like, or your relationship with public and how you treat, I guess, public comments and stuff. Yeah, so I will say he was definitely, in a sense, ignorant for that, but it's clearly again in his fury of the gods, you know, um, he has to be okay with this Snyder Cut existing because that's what they're using in his movie, or at least for the trailers. You know what I mean? So, um, like, so it's not like I don't think he was anti Snyder Cut. I think at the time, I'll kind of equate it to this sort of kind of not the same thing, but like in the end of the day, he's just a guy, right? He's just a normal human being, right? And there was that moment. There was like this time where like let's just say Ben Affleck, right? He was on his like press tour for I think it was like We Own the Night, that movie. I think that was called. And they kept asking him about Batman, and he kind of lost his cool about it, in certain interviews because it's like, yo, like, why are we talking about this when we're supposed to be talking about this? Saying, why are you asking that when this is what you should be asking me? You know, I feel like that was the kind of moment he had. So it was like between whatever he was told by Jeff Johns to probably having like this like bitter feeling about like, yo, like we're here to talk about this. Why would you even ask me about that as if I know or whatever? Like, you know, and all he knew was what he heard from Jeff Johns, right? Because unfortunately, he was never given the privilege to actually meet up with. And again, not his fault, not even David Sandberg's fault. We know for sure David Sandberg wanted to use Superman, right? Maybe had they actually allowed or paid Henry Cavill the right amount to come in and shoot that scene, right, where he comes in as Superman in the lunchroom. Maybe he could have talked to Henry Cavill, established some sort of relationship, hey, and get some sort of different opinion on like whatever the Snyder Cut is, So, yeah, who knows? But let's see what else. Yo, if Zachary can have a change of heart towards Snyder Cut would be dope, but doesn't change his acting jobs. Like I said earlier, right? 100%. I lost. Snyder Cut is in his trailer just at the time. We all make dumb mistakes. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, just you can see what I'm reading. Um, I might have been dumber in the last though. Let them know hatefully. Oh, okay. In the past though. LOL. Yeah, yeah. Look. In the end of the day, we all make mistakes. I think that's all it is, man. You know. Um, but it is what it is. Um, Overall, I'm excited for the DC movies coming up. Black Adam specifically, seeing that it's right around the corner. But again, I'm kind of excited for this Shazam movie. Like again, now that we know that it's solidified that it's in the Snyderverse. Okay, yeah, I understand. There's plot holes for sure. Within let's just say Aquaman for sure. Um, Whatever, and most of these movies. But if there's a way to just connect it all, and if there's if they can fix things as they go along, and don't tell me that it can't be done and that it's not accepted because I mean, let's be honest, like even the MCU did the same, right? And what I'm trying to get is like they recasted uh War Machine, you know what I'm saying? They recasted Hulk within the MCU, you know what I'm saying? And they kept just going along. Let's just keep telling the story, keep moving forward. Who cares, that there's different actors not playing as these characters, you know. They changed, they even pivot where they were going with the storyline as far as like, uh phase after phase 2 is concerned. You know what I mean? Um so yeah, like it's you can't just there's no way you can say that it can't be done. It can be done. Let's just see how they fix things while still moving forward and find a way to connect it. And you know yeah, just we'll have to accept that there are some slight hiccups in certain movies and how they connect, and just be okay with it though, because in the end of the day, like I said, if Zach is coming back and he's able to finish JL 2 and 3, and all these other characters exist. It's inside the same universe, and their stories are just being told in all different times. And whenever he comes to do it, and they all come together, like again, I can't help but imagine the kind of movie Zach can put together if he's able to use the JSA characters, Suicide Squad characters, Suicide Squad characters, his Justice League. If he's able to use all these characters, you know what I mean? In the time it comes to like facing Darkseid, and on top of other characters we haven't seen yet, like Green Lantern, you know, Martian Manhunter, and to see what he can really do. When Zach, because we know, when it comes to Zach in his movies, he knows how to put these characters' powers on full display, comic panel wise, being brought to life. Can you imagine that? You know what I'm saying? And him doing that with Martian Manhunter, him doing that with Green Lantern, him doing that with Shazam, him doing that with Black Adam if he chooses to use him doing that with Doctor Fate. Uh, Talks of Constantine coming back, Keanu Reeves. Imagine him using Constantine around the Keanu Reeves. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine him utilizing these characters, man. Like, I just don't see how you could hate that, like, or be against it. It's just beyond me, Like, I'm all for it. Like, I want to see Zach do what he can do with all these characters. Honestly, it's also a win that DC is more interesting than MCU right now, for better or for worse. Yeah, 100%. And that's my whole point. That's why my thing is DC versus MCU, because I feel like right now DC is making moves that are slightly stepping it up little by little. It's not a quick, well, bam, we got one on you guys, but it's more like they're like showing, like, oh no, we were in the fight in case you thought we were down. Like it's like that Rocky Balboa moment coming up, and right now they're just swinging crazy, and he's got the Russian boxer, I forget his name, along the ropes, getting like, oh snap, I didn't know you was gonna come back like that, but you're coming back, and then it's gonna get to that moment where he finally knocks him out. That's gonna be DC, bro. Just y'all gotta be patient. Y'all gotta be patient because MC is making some dumb moves right now, while DC is making some right moves right now. Slight but right moves that are gonna eventually get them to come ahead of this battle, of this fight of the cinematic wars. Yeah, but let's see. Um, as comic book readers and fans, we've been used to multiple stories all at once are available. We just want our MVP to do his thing. It sounds so good. Imagine Snyder cut 2 and 3. That's hype alone. 100%. 100%. 100%. Yes, Constantine. I'm telling you, Constantine was just. I mean, can you imagine Zach using Constantine? Come on, man. Drago, exactly. Rocky 4, exactly. I'm telling you, MCU's Drago right now. It looked like he was, beating the crap out of Rocky, the DC, you know, and now Rocky's coming back. DC's coming back and taking swings and doing his thing. Eventually they'll come out on top. You just got, we got to be patient. Slightly but right moves. Slight but right moves. That's all I'm saying. Slight but right moves. And again, it's not about like I'm not saying that the MCU has to fail. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about like that's what I want. What I'm talking about is just in general. Like, well, one as a DC, I'm a DC fan, clearly, right? You see behind me, I'm a DC fan. I'm not saying that I want Marvel to fail. What I'm saying is just analyzing it and observing. I can see MCU's making some real dumb moves, or Marvel or Disney for that matter is just making some moves that don't really matter to the average the average moviegoer, the general audience, or to their comic book fans. While on the other hand, you have DC, David Zaslav now making moves that do matter to their fans and to the general audience. You know, again, the only thing right now that I'm hyped for on the Marvel side of things is the Deadpool Wolverine announcement that came out. Um, Other than that, I can't say I'm excited for anything else, to be honest. But we're reaching the 2 hour mark. So I think this is a good point to end it. We talked about a lot of things. Quick recap: House of Dragons versus Rings of Power, Ring of Power. I'm kind of leaning towards Ring of Power more now. Um, Andor versus Obi-Wan. Andor is definitely, right now, in my opinion, way better than Obi-Wan Kenobi show, the series. So if you haven't seen Andor yet, I and because Obi-Wan left a bad taste in your mouth, I'll say go watch Andor. It won't disappoint. Um, if you thought that the Marvel Universe was done for after Thor: Love and Thunder, um, then I would say you're right. But there's still hope now that Deadpool might still come with Wolverine. Let's just hope that the only hope there is let's just hope Disney doesn't stop Ryan Reynolds from doing a rated R film like he needs to with that. That's what I will say to that. Um, and yeah, it's Black Adam, October 21st. I'm gonna go see it. I think y'all should go see it. Let's see what they got planned for us. I mean, again, like, why wouldn't you want to see Henry Cavill Superman? Like, why wouldn't you want to see Doctor Fate? Why wouldn't you want to see Hawkman? Like, I don't know, but you should be excited for that. And and yeah, this if you're a DC fan, if you're a DC fan, I think you should be hyped. If you're a Zack Snyder fan, I think you should also be hyped. For that matter. So that's everything we pretty much talked about today. But my boy Cole J, I appreciate you stopping by. It's always a great time. We need to chop it up soon. I'm telling you, it's not that bad. It got a lot of flack, and with right reason. With right reason, it got a lot of flack. I think it's coming around for me personally, and as I said earlier in the show, I just feel it's got a better pace at the very least than House of the Dragon at the moment when it comes to how fast they're telling their story. But nonetheless, I still would have done it different. I still would have slowed it down. I still would have given more time to, because it's introducing a lot of characters. I would have still given more time to actually tell the stories of these characters, and at the very least, their main character that it seemed that they introduced in the beginning. I would have given more time there before going into things right away, as far as like the bad guy and the good guys being immediately given, and whatever is going on. But that's I feel is the downfall to every show at the moment, is it seems like there's this rush to tell stories. So, but yeah, and yeah, rated R Deadpool. That's what we need. Anything else than that, then the Marvel Cinematic Universe is truly dead and done for. And DC's up on the rise, which not the problem with me. Not the problem with me. Let's go. Man, yeah, appreciate you coming by. That's what we do here at the Chop Shop, man. I mean, let me know, man. Every time, hey, dude, honestly, if you wanted to hop, I mean, it's too late now, but if you ever wanted to hop on, let me know. I should have probably just extended it earlier. That's what I should have done. But yeah, man, maybe next time I can get you up on here so we can actually chop it up, man. But apart from that, we need to chop it up regardless. Hit my line, hit your line, either way it goes. Definitely need to go out to Cali one of these days. Yeah, my brother. But all right, guys, that's it for the Chop Shop. Again, appreciate y'all coming by. For those who stayed and watched with me, appreciate y'all. For those who watch this later, appreciate y'all too. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. Share. Get this going. And again, let's make this a thing. We're here to talk about anything and everything. This isn't the only thing we talk about. It's entertainment, politics, life, culture, everything. Music, movies, TV shows, whatever. We're here to talk about it. Chop Shop. And we out. Peace out, y'all. Much love.
lost karate, I bust you down like Itachi, cause you your jitney hachi. Straight kamikaze, I'm talking to bodies as I go straight brawly. Y'all niggas could hardly be me, I'm not part of the sea. I'm part on the sea like Moses. No psychosis or hocus pocus. I put importance to stay focused. Ignore all the BS on my timeline, I throw a lifeline for those thinking I ain't about mine. Hit you upside your head with a tie iron. Can't be your time if it's my time. The set to be patient, I'm patiently waiting. It's driving me crazy, cause lately the ops that I'm facing is basic and basically tragically hating. Anticipating my fall, they want it all for themselves. So I make the call, no need to stall. I go and get them all off of the shelf. I take affirmative action, I'm blasting and laughing of how you reacting to my satisfaction of cashing injections and Benjis and Wilsons, the life that you always imagined. Brother from the goal, yeah. If you ever see him go, it's Holocaust or Holy Ghost. Overcome or overflow, yeah. Either way it's overdose. Watch you all go comatose, penetrating to your soul, yeah. Tit for tat and toe for toe, pound for pound and blow for blow. You would never see me fold, nah. Claiming that what you don't know, that is how you get exposed. Left for dead with boots.